Mr. Mark Waid. And Mark, it's so great to have you on back. I know you only have you for a very short time, so let's just dive right in.
Sure.
First of all, currently you've been working on with World's Finest with the Kingdom Come stuff. One thing I want to get right into right away is you brought in GOG, which was introduced in with Jeff Johns and Alex Ross's stuff.
Right.
And I was just that. I'm not saying that surprised me because you said in an interview that you keep up to date with Alex and everything, but yeah, just I'm curious on what you've been doing with it because I've just read some of the recent issues and it's like,
Mhm.
wow, how is this going to connect with Kingdom Come? Is this something that you've been thinking about doing since they came up with the character? Like, where'd the idea come from?
Yeah, actually, it all sprang from the original Boy Thunder story that we did
Hmm.
in issues, 7 through 12.
Yep, loved
Was
it.
yeah, huh? I'm sorry.
I said loved it, loved it.
Thank you. Was was originally going to be my idea for a sequel to Kingdom Come back
Hmm.
in the late, the late 1990s.
Right.
And it just never came to be. For some reason, I put it on the back shelf. And
Hmm.
so when I started World's Finest, I thought, oh, this is a place to use the basics of that idea,
Right.
and sort of rework them to fit more in modern continuity.
Hmm.
Um, and so I went with that. And then I knew, if, of course, once I've introduced David as Magog,
Hmm.
I really had no choice but to do
Right.
something Kingdom Come related. So
Hmm.
I chose to make it a prequel rather than a sequel to Kingdom Come. I didn't
Of
think it
course.
was felt quite right to do a sequel without Alex, and
Hmm.
I didn't want to compete with people's love for
Hmm.
that project. So instead, it came to me to do a prequel.
Hmm.
So setting up some of the things that will happen during Kingdom Come, with
Right.
our world's Superman and Batman
Hmm.
visiting the world of Kingdom Come
Right.
and sort of seeing what their future could possibly be.
Yep. Up what's the one in the audience? Pikachu brought up say the Kingdom felt like a strange sequel to the Kingdom Come. I don't think we talked about the Kingdom when I had you on last. That was an interesting follow up. Do you still look fondly on that one? I mean, because I like
No,
this too. No,
no,
no.
I don't look funny on it. I don't look
Uh,
unfondly on it.
right.
I think that through a series of
Hmm.
unforeseen behind the scenes
Right.
circumstances, it didn't come across with the same sort of impact that
Hmm.
I wanted it to have. And it wasn't well served by a number of factors. But
Right.
I will say that the 5 interstitial stories, the
Hmm.
Offspring and Planet
Oh
Krypton
yeah.
and so forth, very proud of those.
Oh
I'm
yeah, I
very proud
love
of those.
them. I
Thank
loved
you.
all of those issues. All I thought so much of the stuff that was introduced in them holds up just as well as Kingdom Come, in my opinion. Like
Thank you.
Offspring, especially, and
Offspring,
Night.
especially,
Yeah,
I'm very fond of. Yeah.
yep, and Nightstar. People love Nightstar still.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Now, of course, you the final issue of World's Finest Teen Titans comes out. Just want to say, really enjoyed that. You also
Thank you.
worked on Batman versus Robin.
Hmm.
Now that I found interesting because was did Williamson build up the plot points for you for your thing to do be done, or was that a case where you were given the ball and ran with it? Like, how did that come about?
It was more the latter. It
Uh
was
huh.
I had pitched Batman versus Robin some time ago. Like, I pitched it
Hmm.
a couple of years ago, and we were going to
Hmm.
do it, but it kept being pushed back on my schedule and pushed back on my schedule because of all the other
Hmm.
work. And then when it came time to do it,
Yep.
it made sense to sort of tie it in with what Josh had done to build up
Yep.
Lazarus Island and so forth.
Yep.
So, and then we worked pretty closely together on making sure that all the pieces fit together.
Hmm. And then Lazarus Planet, was that always meant to tie in, or did that come about and get tacked on? Because it felt a little interesting. I was like, you have one event, then we have another event within an event. I'm like,
Within an event. I
never
know.
heard of that.
It wasn't originally planned that way, but when
Hmm.
Lazarus Planet, the idea of Lazarus Planet was internally generated. It was,
Hmm.
I don't know whether it was editor Paul Kaminsky or editor Ben Abernathy or who came up with the idea, but when it was pitched to me, I thought, well, that's really good, and it
Hmm.
does sort of fit within what we're doing with Batman and Robin. So rather than have two stories that tie into the same, two stories about the same thing. I thought it'd be better to just sort of weave them together.
Right.
So you're right. It is weird to have an event within an event,
Yeah.
but it seemed to work out pretty well.
Yeah, that was always just the weird thing. Just like that's unheard of, but I
Yeah.
loved it. But I still loved it nonetheless. Now most of us want to give a little praise since I've only read them, skimmed through them through digital versions, official digital versions. I want to make clear through Amazon, but of Irredeemable. But I backed the campaign. And
Excellent. Good man. Good
yep.
man.
So, yep, I just want to say, going over Irredeemable, what's your stance on the evil Superman that kind of came out? I wouldn't say because of your stuff, but you're clearly Irredeemable, the best handling. But it seems like ever since Irredeemable, you started getting more of that. You started getting Homelander, you started getting Injustice Superman. And I know how much you love Superman. So what's been your stance on, I mean, I know Injustice Superman's actually Superman, but just all these evil Superman archetypes. Where do you stand on that?
I think that some of them are interesting, some of them are not interesting, some of them are clever, some of them are not clever. I think that the common denominator, and I could have fallen into this trap very easily too, is that the basic idea, what if Superman went bad, is such low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's the easiest story in the world to write.
Yeah.
If that's all you're going to do with it is, oh, look how edgy and dark he can be if that's the case. Tom Taylor did a nice job of expanding upon that and making it a little, more than that in the Injustice series that followed mine. And then Irredeemable always originally started with that core kickoff idea, but as you've seen in the series, that is only a very small part of what happens. And B, it's not really a story of, oh, fake Superman is using his powers to make the world awful all the time. It's more about a psychological investigation as to, okay, what would cause someone with these powers and these abilities and this background, what would cause them to do this? What is in their background? What is in their what is in their psychological makeup that would bring them to this point? That was the interesting part of the story to me. Like, Superman gone bad is not the interesting part of the story to me. It's why Superman would go bad. That's the interesting part.
Yep. And I gotta say, those first couple of pages, right, was Hornet and his whole family getting slaughtered, was so chilling. But just this moment, I'm a superhero, and then boom, it's like, Jesus, that set a high mark for who this character was. But yeah, I do find it so interesting. It's basically, the guy was broken from the beginning, but was so perfectly good at covering it. Very few realized until Hornet realized, how did he know about my wife's name? Wait a second. It's like, Plutonian was good, but he was doomed to fail.
He was doomed to fail. He was doomed to fail right from the get-go. And a lot of that credit for that, that opening sequence and, certainly the first half of the series was Peter Krause, the artist Peter Krause, who put a human face. There's a real humanity to Peter's work. There's a real, people are real. Their his facial expressions, the way he conveys in body language. I mean, these people feel very real.
Oh yeah, like the panic right here in Hornet's face. It's like, we have to leave now. Just you
so that's
that.
Without that, if it had been drawn by just a generic, Jim Lee clone, I don't think it would have nearly the same impact.
Or even if it was Kevin Maguire. Maguire has a specific type of facial expression, but not the same.
Right.
But Incorruptible, really love that. Okay, I gotta ask, the idea of jailbait, whose idea was that? Was that yours or was that Peter's? Whose?
It was mine. It is a name that did not age well, obviously.
Obviously. I mean, I still love it. I love how the whole thing, like, I'm waiting till you're 18, and I just love that. It's like, what the heck?
I mean, there's, to be fair,
I know. Yep.
To be fair,
he was a bad guy.
To be fair, he's a villain, and also we made it clear in the series. He never actually did anything even remotely sexual with her.
Exactly.
Waiting for her to turn 18, but never. Not going to lay a finger on her, not going to do anything untoward. And she picked the name. So
yeah, exactly. Which again, I did like that. It was just one of those games where you're like, whose idea was it? But
Yeah, I
I
wouldn't.
love his power. I love his power. So I just want to say that
Yeah.
the longer he stays awake, the more vulnerable he gets. But it
Yep.
comes with the downside of he can't stay awake that long. And the moment he gets some rest, reset.
Yeah. Yeah. For those who haven't read it, that's that is the
His powers,
power
yeah.
that he deals with, is that, the longer he stays awake, as you say, the
Hmm.
more invulnerable, the stronger he gets. But he can only stay awake so long. Anybody can only stay awake so long. And even if you're using, even if he resorts to using, pharmaceuticals to keep
Hmm.
moving, as we even then, sleep deprivation is still a thing. And
Exactly. He's
and
still
so
human everywhere else.
right. And so, if you're working with that level of power, but you're sleep deprived, you're only going to make more and more mistakes, and it's going to get weirder and weirder. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And then Insufferable. This was one that I am so. This was one of the main reasons why I want to get these collections, was because finally seeing collected, because I heard about it, never got it before because the digital stuff didn't get into it at that time, and then when it came out, the other issues, I'm like, I don't know about this other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
but
Good. I'm glad it was new to you. Excellent.
yep, and I loved it. Just this whole idea of, and now it's a spiritual follow up to the other two, not set in the same world or nothing like that.
Not
But
not that we know of so far, although it's certainly,
it
you know,
could.
it could be. I mean, if you look at it as something that took place before the events of Irredeemable, it could fit in there. Sure.
Yep, definitely not after because people wouldn't bring it up.
Right.
But again, and now from what I understand, during the campaign, you are going back to the world of Irredeemable,
Hmm.
correct?
That's the plan for sometime in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
Peter and I are talking about what to do. We've already had some conversations
Mm-hmm.
about doing an Irredeemable mini series. It's sort of a follow up to what we've done,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we'll get there. As you know, as you've seen, my workload is insane right
Oh
now.
yeah. I mean, you're going to
Um,
be doing stuff on Action Fine. You're finally getting on the mainline Superman, which I guess,
yeah,
how does
finally,
that feel? How does that feel
uh,
after all these years?
no, it's great. I mean, it feels really, really fun to do. And,
Mm-hmm.
the story that we're doing that we can't talk about yet, the
Right,
artist I'm
obviously.
working with is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story I've been itching to tell for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, finally getting to do this thing that sort of, without giving anything away, sort of
Right.
sort of fixes something in the Superman universe that I think has been broken for a long
Mm-hmm.
time. Not the wedding, not the marriage,
Obviously, we went over that before. I
yeah,
remember
something,
that.
something of a smaller scale, but something that I
Mm-hmm.
that I feel has sort of strayed so far from its original concept that I think it's lost a lot of
Right.
its magic. And so let's use
Mm-hmm.
that story to
I'm
sort of
curious
bring that
now.
back. Yeah, yeah.
I'm curious now. You've piqued my interest. And since we mentioned Superman, Last Days of Lex
Super.
Luthor.
Yep.
Love it.
Thank you.
This now, is this officially tying in the Birthright, or is it more of a loose follow up to Birthright? Because that's I've heard one or the other, so I was
Well,
curious.
it's the really the only reason I hesitate to call it a sequel to Birthright is because it's not drawn by Lamiel,
Right,
who drew the original Birthright series. So,
right.
but that's certainly no slam on Brian Hitch. Brian Hitch is bringing the
Oh
thunder.
yeah.
Brian Hitch is it's amazing work. It's it's very much it's very much the same Clark and
Hmm.
Lex and cast that you
Yep.
saw. That the interpretation that I gave of them in Birthright is the same
Yep.
exact here. So
Exactly.
you could certainly read them as bookends.
Right. But yeah, because yeah, you're handling on Lex and all that, and I get Birthright. I know I mentioned before when I had you on before. I really loved that. That was a
Right.
very good story and everything. Just on its own, self-contained. Still one of those so I can hand it to someone and say, "Here and read this." Don't
Thank you.
expect it to be canon, but enjoy
Right.
it.
Right. Thank
But
you.
yeah, and this one, once this is done, I plan on doing the same. It's in the first book. I'm already
Yeah.
loving it because Lex is a character that's both easy to get right and easy to get wrong. And I
Right.
think I'm not talking smack about Brian Azzarello, but his Lex Luthor Man of Steel set a wrong precedent for some people who misread what it's about, where they think, oh, Lex is the real hero. It's like, did you not get the point of the book?
Yeah.
But it is what it is. Oh, and one book I read we didn't go about last time I was in that I wanted to squeeze in was
Oh yeah.
Spider-Man Family Business. And How does it feel about Peter's sister still being utilized?
It was, I mean, again, if you, I hesitate to add something that big to the Spider-Man universe definitively.
Hmm.
So if you
Right.
know, it's those who read the book, I
Oh, I know.
left the let James Robinson and I left the question open at the
Oh,
end.
yeah.
Is she really Peter's sister? Does she just believe she's Peter's sister,
I know.
or
And they
is
go
it
back and forth with it after you. They've gone
right?
back
And
and
so they
forth.
go
They've
back and forth
waffled.
with it afterwards. So I thought it, but I thought it was very cool to see that character. I never expected that character to pop up again. So I was very
Hmm.
pleased to see that, to see her
Yeah.
become a part of the Spider-Man cast. Sure.
And I like that story because, yeah, that's a good one where it's like, yeah, you don't want to be nothing that drastic. Just leave it vague, leave it open to interpretation, but and let it be someone else's problem, is what I
Yeah.
say.
All right. Props to Pika Shades, who
Hmm.
has said in the chat that I have got the name Superman wrong in Finland.
Oh,
So we'll fix that in the trade paperback. Good call.
nice.
Thank you for catching that. I'm going to screen
Yep.
cap that right now
Nice.
so I don't forget. Okay.
Nice, nice. Now, oh, and another book I want because I didn't read them. I since got in the trade since I had you on your
Oh
Hulk
yeah.
work.
Thanks.
How was it working on the Hulk? Like this whole idea, especially this one, and what you started here. And I'm
Yeah.
curious why you didn't stick around after you introduced the Doc Green
I, I I wanted to, again. It was a workload situation. By that
workload.
time, but I mean, by that time, I'd done what,
Um,
20 something,
20.
a couple. Yeah,
You have 20 issues, and then 4 here plus the original Sin, so like 25 issues.
yeah, like a couple of years. And so, I mean, as is the case often with the Marvel characters, less so with the
Hmm.
DC characters. You know, I was approached to do the book, and
Hmm.
my immediate reaction was, I don't have a take on that character. I don't know what to
Gotcha.
do with it. I don't have the same sort of love for some of the Marvel characters that I do for all of the DC characters.
Right.
So the pitch was made to me. You want to do Hulk, whatever you want to do, and I went away and I thought about it,
Hmm.
and I was happy that I came up with a wrinkle and an approach that no one had ever
Yeah.
used before, which
Exactly.
was which was again, you if you're Banner, it's the old thing about, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same results,
Yeah.
expecting
Madness.
different results. And so he's been trying to cure himself of the Hulk for 60 years.
Hmm.
And so my take on the series was, all right, he's accepted that he's never going to be able to cure himself of this. So if that's the case, how do we use him? How do we use the
Hmm.
Hulk in a positive way? So he allies with Shield to set it up where the Hulk becomes a weapon for them. The Hulk
Yep.
becomes, the thing they send into a crisis when, you know, you require something of that level. And in return, he gets full access. Banner gets full access to all the Shield science, all the Shield,
Yep.
technical facilities, and so forth. So Banner can build while
Hmm.
Hulk destroys. That was the
Exactly.
hook of the book. And so I did it for a couple of years.
Hmm.
And I'm sorry nobody really ran with that, but
Yeah.
Hulk is one of those characters that is so sort of malleable and open that there's any number of interpretations you can put on that character.
Definitely.
I,
And I gotta
like,
say,
I love what Al
oh,
Ewing did. I love the
oh
Green
yeah.
Door stuff.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love that too. And
yeah.
I gotta say though, the original Sin stuff was Tony and him. Granted, some of the stuff like the email stuff, you're obviously shifting timelines, so that couldn't fit back in the past. But otherwise, I love this idea that Bruce could have prevented it if his pride didn't let him ignore, delete, and block Tony and everything. I
Yep.
love that. Just this whole like, and Tony, he told him the stuff to put it on himself. Very Tony like. And
Yep.
then like, I didn't tell him the rest because that would destroy Bruce, and it would.
Right. And that's the secret that Tony has to carry around. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's just this whole secret. It's like, yeah, if I told Bruce, if Bruce found out he could have prevented, if his pride didn't get the better of him, it would destroy him,
Right.
and it would. Um,
Well,
let's. Yeah.
Let me interrupt you. We got a question in the sidebar. How did I feel when Bendis downgraded Maggins' Miracle Monday from a celebration of Superman's beating the ultimate evil to revealing his identity during his run?
Mm,
I frankly I didn't even notice. I mean,
I didn't
I
either.
read those stories, but that wasn't my takeaway from the Bendis identity reveal thing. So,
Hmm.
I
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah, it's a moot point now that his
Oh
secret
yeah,
identity is back in the now that
the genie's put back in.
Genie's been put back in the bottle. Yeah.
Which I gotta say, I noticed the whole idea of people who know the truth, their mind will get, hemorrhage, kind of a lot similar to what was implying for Lois with that Superman 2000 pitch a while back.
It is the same exact idea
Exact thing.
that we came up with in Superman 2000. So
but it's the opposite. It's swapped. Instead of Lois, it's everyone else.
Right.
Yeah, I find that I found out like, hey, wait a second.
Again, I think coincidence more than anything else.
Obviously,
yeah.
Good idea. The good idea. Now Shazam, loving Shazam, and I'm just curious on where you plan on going with it further, because like this whole bit of the people that he represents, the gods, we're taking control of them. That was new, but I also like what you're doing with the kids. You're making them the Charlton character, the different, not Charlton,
the Fawcett characters.
Fawcett. Why are they Charlton? Fawcett characters. And I really like that. Like, how long of a plan do you have for Shazam?
That one's one where it's sort of more, I'm sort of making it up as I go. I had the original 6 issues in mind, and then, on the other side of that, I knew like we'll have Black Adam show up. Because it's time for it. You can't really do a Shazam book for any length of time without him in it. And then beyond that, coming up, we have a special guest star who the Creeper, actually.
Ooh.
Who I think I was trying to figure out who would be the absolute worst. What would be the worst team up imaginable for the Captain? What DC hero is just completely antithetical to the Captain in every way, shape, or form? And the Creeper is what I landed on. And there's a natural tie there because the Creeper in his real identity is Jack Ryder, who is a newsman and a podcaster, and so is Billy.
Yep.
So
similarities.
There's similarities. So the Creeper issue is a lot of fun.
Right. And also, Dark Crisis Big Bang. It felt so fitting because you were one of the guys who worked on the original pre-crisis, the listing that people did in the compendium.
Yep.
And then here you're renumbering them again. And by the way, I'm just blanking on his name right now because I just didn't look back. The guy who did DC Mech, I talked to him about this, how you included that. And he was like, I felt so proud. He never expected it. And just, and the fact it was so close to the release of this it's what caught him by surprise, and I think caught everyone by surprise. Like,
but we wanted to be up to date. We wanted to be, as inclusive as we possibly could to the DC, all of the parallel worlds of the DC universe. I'm sure there's one or two we must have overlooked in all of that, but I don't think so. I think we pretty much hit everything.
Yeah, and I love this, especially dealing with the antimatter. It's like you bring back the Infinite Earth, you got to deal with the antimatter, and having it be just Flash was perfect. And it felt almost like he was the antimatter took out Flash before you ever got in the character. Right. It feels like you're almost bringing it in a way, like you're the one bringing full circle, which I love. That he's the one who takes him down, not once and for all, obviously, but prevents him from taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
And how did this one come about? Was it just saying, hey, we need another tie-in, and you just pitched it, or?
It was even more than that. It was basically we want something that is sort of a catalog of the parallel worlds that we have now on the other side of the crisis on, the Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. And I said, well, I don't want to do just like a Wikipedia 24-page Wikipedia entry. I want it to be something with a little more teeth to it, some teeth to it. And so that's the idea came up with the story when I realized that Barry is still around, and Barry could then have his final moment against the Anti-Monitor that he was denied back in the original stories. And it's just spun out of that.
All right. Now, someone here has been asking this question. Since you are bringing back pre-crisis Constance and World's Finest, any plans on bringing back pre-crisis, not evil Morgan Edge to the main DC universe? Because he's kind of always been on the crooked side ever since post-crisis made him. No, was that Morgan? No, that was his father. I'm thinking of Vinny Edge. But
that's a character ripe for World's Finest, and maybe even Action Comics. But if I do that character, I would like to do him as, he was described back in the day as the smiling cobra.
Exactly.
The charming but truly at heart, opportunistic and not evil, but not in any way admirable.
Exactly. Well, Mark, we're coming up on the half an hour. I thank you so much. Sorry, I just bombarded with you so much.
No, that's okay. I mean, I'm glad we covered a lot of ground. I'm sorry I couldn't stay longer, but
no, it's fine. I gotta get back to work anyway. So I just use my lunch breaks for this thing, so
got it.
Gives me a little extra time and all that. But thank you so much. I hope you keep up the great work. Loving World's Finest. Like I'm hoping you stay on that for as long as possible.
You pry it out of my cold dead hands. Yeah.
Exactly. And I cannot wait for action. Loving Shazam. Cannot wait to see how far that's going. And anything else you want to tease before you go? Or
I think we covered it all. I think we really did.
All right then. Yep, you got Irredeemable. We got still continuing on with last days of Lex Luthor and World's Finest and Shazam. All right.
A lot going on. Yep.
Yep.
You bet.
All right. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone else. See you on the next one.
Take care.